Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lindsay and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys makeup tips I really wish I knew earlier. I thought this would be such a fun idea and I would love to hear from you guys in the comments below. What's one makeup tip you've learned that has really changed your makeup game? I'd love to hear your tips if you have any, or just ones that you found that have really helped you out. Before we get started, if you guys aren't already subscribed, I'd love to have you, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy at any point. But let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and get started on these makeup tips I have to share with you guys. So my first tip I really wish I knew about earlier, which is skincare. I was into makeup way before I was into skincare. I was literally just using Aveeno body lotion on my face. I just wish I could go and tell myself that instead of trying to always make your skin look better with makeup, like if you focus on skincare and your skin looks healthier, then your makeup's gonna ultimately look better. If you're not currently into skincare, you don't need to go out and buy a ton of products. Honestly, my routine is really simple. I think my skin is happier that way. Just a couple products to really target your skin concerns, and I think it'll really help your makeup application a lot. So first, I'm just gonna start applying the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip Primer. I'm only using a little bit. I feel like that's kind of the trick with this. It can get a little weird if you use too much, but I just like to focus this in my T-zone. My next tip is something I learned from Scott Barnes when he did Tati's makeup. I think that video was just really cool to watch and I definitely enjoyed it. And he uses contour and highlight under foundation, but the way I've adapted this to really fit in with my routine and how I personally like it is I just like to do contour under my foundation. This is great if you're not that good with contour. If it seems to always look messy or patchy on you, this is a really great tip. Personally, I like it. It just makes it look so much more natural and it just looks like it's your skin instead of like you clearly have some contour on. So my favorite is the Anastasia Fawn Contour Stick. This is a very cool tone shade, great if you have paler skin like me, but they also have some other shades. They have a bunch of other shades along with highlighting shades of this. So this, I just like to start it where I would put my contour. And I do go a little heavier because it is under foundation. If I was doing this over, I would definitely just make sure to do a lighter layer. Now that I look crazy, I'm just gonna go ahead and blend this out. Now that everything is generally blended, I also recommend using a contour with some sort of coverage to it. I find that's helpful because you end up using less foundation, which brings us on to my next tip, which is really just a general rule. I used to wear a lot of base makeup. I thought that if I wore more of it, it would make my skin look better, but I had like so many issues with foundation that I was always trying to fix instead of just using less product. And I feel like using less product or doing lighter layers really does help your makeup just look less cakey and sort of solves those problems that you may have when you use a lot of product. I'm gonna go ahead and use my Bite Beauty Changemaker foundation because it's one of my favorites. I'm gonna mix L20 with a little bit of L40 here. So if you do need a lot of coverage or like a lot of coverage like I do, you can still get that coverage. I would just recommend trying to find a product that really works with your skin and just work in light layers. I really like this foundation. It's more of a medium coverage, but it just, I feel like looks so good on the skin. Even if you accidentally use a little bit too much of it, it just melts into your skin beautifully. My foundation choice back in the day, it depends. Like if I was getting a high-end one, I used to love the Tarte Amazonian Clay foundation because that has just so much coverage. But I also really love the Revlon Color Stay. That was my go-to for a while. Let me know what your favorite foundation was when you first started in makeup, or like your conventional favorite. I'd love to hear that from you guys. But anyway, I'm just putting this first layer on my skin. And I like to use a sponge with foundation too. I feel like if you have texture, just have a problem blending foundation. I feel like sponges are such a great makeup invention. And of course, just making sure it's really blended into my hairline. Now you should be able to tell that you can see that the contour is there, but it's very subtle. It's not as obvious as if you were to do it over foundation. It just adds a really nice structure to your face and a great base to work off of. My next tip is if you have more to cover after your first layer of foundation, instead of going in with another layer immediately, if you feel like you can spot conceal, go ahead and spot conceal. I used to do this all the time. Instead of just spot concealing, I would keep layering up foundation all over my whole face instead of focusing on areas that need it and leaving the areas that don't. So I just end up with a cakey face all the time. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my Kosas concealer for some spot concealing today. I've been really loving this concealer. I didn't initially like it, but I feel like I've kind of found my groove with it. This is the shade 3. Which I really like for spot concealing. So I feel like that foundation gave me coverage I needed. It's just these acne scarring I have down here that I want to cover. Going ahead and blending that in with my sponge. For my under eyes, I'm using the same concealer but in the shade 02. A concealer trick that I wish I knew is just to use less of it. Again, I feel like that was just, maybe it was like the trend in makeup of when I was learning on YouTube, but it was all about tons of concealer, tons of foundation, and especially for every day, just less product always looks way better on the skin. So I just like to focus on the inner and outer corners of my eyes. This is also going to help to lift the face, but also focusing on the area that is the darkest, which is usually that inner corner. And I'm just going to go ahead and blend this in with the same sponge. This one is an Ulta sponge, by the way. Another big thing with makeup I wish I knew is like, don't expect your makeup to look like an edited picture of someone's makeup. There's definitely a lot more people who are more transparent about editing or don't even edit their photos. I never edit my skin in photos because I always felt like my texture was like, I feel like no one else had skin texture and I always had such textured skin, and I would try to fix it with makeup and it would just like never look the same as pictures I saw online. So that's another big one, is like skin texture is okay to have. You can't expect your makeup to look like an edited picture. You know what I'm saying? Before we set anything, I'm going back in with my contour just because I like to do another layer of nose contour. Another thing I think that's helped me with contour a lot is contour to your nose shape. Sometimes you'll see someone do contour and try it on your own face and it might look totally different. So for me, I do have a shorter nose. So some people like to contour under their nose to make it look shorter, but I already have a shorter nose. So I don't do that, and I only do it on the side, so it sort of elongates my nose. So it really depends on your nose shape, what kind of contour do you want to do to make it look however you want it to look. Next, to set my under eyes and the rest of my face, I'm using the Cover FX Perfect Setting Powder, which has a little bit of a sheen to it. It's not my favorite. I kind of want to try the matte one. I'm also going to make sure my creases are blended out before we set. This powder actually looks really good with the Kosas concealer. I feel like some powders, like, it depends on what concealer I use, if I like them or not. Taking whatever's left here in the top of my lid and setting the rest of my face just lightly. Moving on to bronzer, I'm gonna use my Cover FX Monochromatic Bronzer Duo in the shade Sun Kissed Bronze today. Bronzer is also a category that sort of falls into the less is more tip that I had. Also finding a tone that works for you. If I'm using something more neutral or cool, say like the Charlotte Tilbury Bronze and Glow, which is almost more of a contour shade, I can go a little bit more heavy-handed, but with a shade like this that's very warm, I start with very little product and then build it up. I don't know why I used to always just like load up tons of bronzer and then try to blend it out. And then if I put too much on, it's kind of hard to go back. But if you just start with a smaller amount, you can always build it up. It's just a simple thing that really makes a difference. And I like to just lightly mix these two. I'm using a Flower Beauty, I don't know the name of this, just this little fluffy dome brush. Bronzer is complete. Moving on to blush, I'm gonna use the Tower 28. This is their Beach Please Magic Hour blush. The next tip, I wish I knew, I have it written down here. It's just called cream products, exclamation point. I never used to use cream products. I think it's honestly just because matte skin was really in when I was into makeup, and also I was just scared, I don't know, that it would look oily or dewy. I just feel like they weren't very popular at that point. But now I feel like my makeup style is a lot different. Cream products just add a really nice, healthy glow to your skin. They make it look less like you're wearing makeup and sort of like it's just your skin that's really glowy. It's a great way to add dewiness and just life back to the face. So this one's really pigmented. I am going to use this part of my sponge. I just like to grab a little bit but then dab it off because, again, super pigmented. Don't want to go overboard. And then I just like to keep this on the backs of my cheeks. This will give you a more lifted look as opposed to having it on the apples of your cheeks. Personally, I don't really like to do that. I feel like it just makes my face look more round. Even though I do have an oval face, it's just, I feel like this way is a little bit more flattering. And these apply beautifully over powder, by the way. I never have any problems with them. Next tip is the sort of drench your face and then sponge your face method. That kind of sounds weird. But basically, you can take any sort of setting mist. This is the Pop Beauty Makeup Magnet Mist. I also use Pixie sometimes. Lily Lolo has a nice setting mist. So you just mist your face. I like to get it really, really misted and then let it almost completely dry. You don't want to go in when it's really wet because it will pick up your makeup, but when it's almost dry, go in with your sponge, and this is just gonna sort of melt the powder and all the products together into your skin. It's just gonna make it look really natural. But before that, we do have highlight. I totally forgot, but let's go ahead and hop into that. Another cream product, I'm gonna use the Westman Atelier. This is their Lit Up highlight stick in the shade, Lit Up is the shade, I think. With this, I'm also using a different side of my sponge to tap this on. This is really dewy, so you kind of have to be careful with it, but it adds such a pretty glow. Has a little bit of a purple shift to it. I just did my Westman Atelier video if you guys haven't seen that. I don't personally like putting cream highlight on my nose. I feel like it takes my nose makeup off, but for that I'm gonna use the Ofra. This is the Beverly Hills highlight, and just do a little bit on my nose. Now going in with my mist to set everything. Alright, so we have fast forwarded quite a bit. I finished up my eye makeup, did brows, and I'm moving on to mascara, which is my next tip with mascara. Is when you're applying it, instead of sort of going this way, that'll make your eyes look a lot bigger. But if you want more of sort of like a cat eye look, just take the brush and comb your lashes to the side. I really like this trick because I do have more round eyes and I feel like it just gives them a more feline-esque shape. I'm using the Ilia mascara here, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and repeat that on the other eye. Next, for false lashes, this is a technique I've learned lately that I've really been enjoying. Again, to go in with that sort of more fox eye look that is a little more trendy at the moment, I just have some regular wispies here. These are already cut, but what I like to do is make these just like an outer corner lash. So usually I will trim them. I usually leave like 3 groups of lashes. I feel like that's enough to really like draw out the eye, but it blends in with your natural lashes and just looks really pretty. I would definitely recommend something like wispies just because I feel like they blend in a little bit more. If you use a really dramatic or thick banded lash, it's going to be more obvious, and especially since I only have a glitter liner on today, I'm going to go ahead and trim these and put them on. Alright, so I popped those on. You should be able to tell. It's really subtle, but it just I feel like it adds a really nice finishing touch to the eyes and it looks really natural. Definitely love that tip, especially combined with the way you apply the mascara tip. So for lips, my tip for lips is, if I wish I knew one before, is to just wear lipstick. That's not the only tip, but I used to not wear any lipstick, like sometimes lip balm, which I feel like lipstick really completes the look and helps everything come together. So for lipstick today, I'm going to be using the Bare Minerals Bare Pro. This is the shade Saffron. It is bright. I thought it would go really nicely with the eyes. And my other lipstick tip is, I don't know why I always do this, but I like to blend in my lipstick with my finger. I feel like it adds a really nice soft edge. I don't really like having soft like edges on my lips. I feel like it looks really unnatural. I just like to go and sort of blend in, sort of overlining, not lining, over blending, I guess. And to finish off this look, I thought this gloss would be perfect with our gold glitter liner. This is the Bare Minerals 24 karat lip gloss. Alright guys, those were all of my makeup tips. I wish I knew earlier. I hope you enjoyed this video, and most importantly, I hope you found it helpful. Let me know in the comments below one life-changing makeup trick that you've learned. I'd love to hear from you guys. Of course, everything I used will be linked and listed below, including my eyes, so check down there if you have any questions. But thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.